Welcome to the Learn to RV podcast, where every mile is a lesson and every stop is an adventure.
Hey guys, we're at the Learn to RV podcast where anything can happen and could maybe. Do you smell snow? Does snow have a smell?
Yes.
Well, this week we're going to talk about Jack Frost and whether or not he wins in your RV. But what does it take to thrive in winter in your rig if you do get caught in snow? Or winterizing, that's an important aspect of RVing for a lot of people. And so this week we're going to talk about that and talk about, there's snowy campgrounds. I've known people that have gone to RV on purpose in the winter and go skiing, or maybe they got caught in winter weather and didn't know what to do next. Those are some important tips too. So I'm going to start with a little story. Last year, we changed our rig out and we traded, we changed to this one. But when we did that, we left our RV in Indiana, fully expecting that it was going to be hauled to Texas. But that didn't happen. So that rig was not winterized. And so my list is totally based off of what not to do if you do that. Now, we got lucky. We got lucky because there was no pipes broken. And our saving grace was that it froze in Texas too last year. So whatever we didn't do in Indiana wouldn't have been done in Texas. So there is that side of it too. But what does it take to be in a wintering climate or not? But packing up your camper, a lot of times people this time of year, they're doing their last one or two runs to the campground and they're going to put it away for the season. And so what about you guys? We're going to get going. We're going to grab some cocoa and bundle up. But let's get into it. Does winter prep really matter? What do you think,
Yes.
Tasha?
My style of winter prep is to prep myself right down to where it's 72 degrees. But if you can't make that happen, then yes, I think winter prep is essential. Because if you don't, you can cause so much damage to your RV that is very costly to repair. The same type of damage that you would expect in your home with your pipes, except you don't have the thick walls to support your wipes, your pipes, you're in a tin can. So that's it's like amplified cold or heat around your devices and around your pipes and things like that. So I think prep is very important.
Well, in our first year on the road, we had a 30-foot toy hauler with no slides, but we also did not have an enclosed underbelly. And so that was like, as the cold came in that year, you could feel it like to your bones. I don't know how else to describe it. And there was this winter storm that was coming. And Frank's like, we got to go now. And so we spent 2 days of hard travel just getting to Florida so that we were past that line and we felt it like the one night that we stopped for the night to sleep, it passed over us. And the next morning we woke up and you could see your breath inside the camper. So we're going to start with some basics. So winterizing isn't just a chore. It's kind of a love letter to your RV. I mean, if you love your RV, you're not going to stay in the cold with it. But it's how we protect the plumbing. It's how we preserve those systems and avoid waking up to frozen pipes or cracked tanks. But there's way more to it than that. There's a lot of other factors that maybe you don't even think about that could be affected by the cold. But let's be real. 3 girls telling you how to winterize your RV. Are you going to tune out?
Listen, we are not going to do this, okay?
Yes, we are three
are,
very intelligent women here.
You are
Absolutely.
going to listen to the 3 girls because we know what we're talking about.
That's right.
But I mean, whether you're tuning in or tuning out, we think there's value here. We absolutely do. I've seen rigs suffer thousands of dollars worth of damage from one overlooked item. So we're not going to skip any steps today. We're actually going to set up for peace of mind, whether you're storing your RV or you're living in it full time in a frosty climate. So let's talk with some winterizing highlights. Jen, what would be your top tip for winterizing an RV?
So, beyond the pipes, because I think that's obvious, I want to talk about actually your RV batteries. You do not want to leave those out in the cold in the wintertime, or if you're stuck in a storm or anything. Batteries, it is very important to keep those warm. So, one thing, if you're putting your unit into storage, make sure to remove those batteries, take them home with you where you can keep them warm. Or if you live in your rig full time, look into getting what's called battery warmers. We have them on our batteries, and they are designed to, they'll just automatically kick on as soon as it gets down like below 40 degrees. And they'll keep our batteries warm. And then when they get, above 40 degrees, they automatically turn off. So we don't have to think about it. Now we've got temperature sensors in our battery bay and other things so we can monitor it all anyways, just in case something fails. But you definitely want to have something in place. Now, before we had battery warmers, one of the storms that we got caught in unexpectedly, we had a little bit of time to prep, but not enough time to get out of there. We went and actually secured some work lights, which put out quite a bit of heat. And, with like the little, gosh, I don't know all the technical terms, but, a work light with all the, with the little rack around it and, you hang it on things. So we went and got those and we set them up in our bays with our batteries and, water and everything just to help make sure that things didn't get too cold or freeze. And in that particular time, in addition to using the light, we also took Reflectix and lined the battery bay with Reflectix to help keep the heat in and protect the batteries during that deep freeze.
And another good way for Reflectix to be used is actually putting it inside your cupboards will help as well,
Yep.
inside the rig and your windows, obviously, but
I mean, that
inside the
helps both in
cupboards.
the winter and summer. The Reflectix
Absolutely.
does.
We have the
Absolutely.
cheap knockoff Reflectix. Bear with me. For those of you who are watching us at home, um, watch me stretch behind us. You may notice that I have what many of you have in your window of your car when you park in the sun. We got a really big one for like
Hey,
we got it like at Love's or something, and it was for like a big hauler, like a truck, and we cut it to fit the window and we put them inside the curtain on both of our big windows on the wall. And I am telling
yep.
you what, it helps in the summer and in the colder temperatures. It keeps the cold out and keeps the sun from baking us. It's wonderful. I love it.
Hey, it works. Who
And it
cares
was
how you
cheap.
get to that point as long as you find something, right?
Yep.
So a couple years back, we went and looked at RVs because, from time to time, it's nice to go look at the new stuff out there. And I walked in and I asked the guy that was the salesman how thick their floor was and what their R rating was. And he said, "Oh, it's real good."
But what is it?
And that was what I asked. And
Right.
he was like, and he stomped on the floor a little harder and said, "No, it's real good."
Uh-huh.
And I'm like,
You didn't
"So
know.
you don't know, do you?" And so our ratings are important. And so I know
Yes.
that we're studying some stuff for, Learn to RV about, real, true, for all season type brands. And Tasha's been doing some studying on that. And Tasha, what have you learned without
Well,
disclosing everything that we're doing on that one?
yes, I don't want to disclose everything because I do want to encourage y'all to go check us out on Patreon. If you haven't done that, it's a great way to get some bonus content from us.
Yes.
I got an opportunity at Hershey to talk to some people from different brands of RVs. We're talking big names. Um, Everything from Tiffin to Alliance, Forest River, Grand Design, um, some brands that opted not to go on camera because they did not want to talk about whether or not their rigs were actually all season worthy. That was really eye-opening for me since we've been talking about upgrading ours. We were like, okay, won't be getting that one. Um, but some of the things that were said to us by a couple of brands was, you know, they're not really all season. And then I had some brands that said, you're going to have brands that tell you they're not all season. And what we'll tell you is that we are. We've gone above and beyond to make sure that we are. Don't take us to Antarctica, but you can take us to Alaska if you'd like to.
Well, and there's
So
companies that have, like, ice fishing units. I mean, we've seen them
yes.
over the years, and they're insulated differently too, but I'm not
Yep.
hauling around one of those ice fishing units because 'cause they're
Yeah.
tiny and they don't come with slides. So
Yep. What I
Right.
My big tip after speaking to as many people as I did, my big takeaway is do not just trust those stickers. When those stickers say 4 season, when they say all season, when they say all weather, when they say weather tech, when they say whatever the heck it is that they say, even when the salesman says to you, this is what this is, ask the questions. Find
oh,
out what
your
that
R
R
rating.
rating is. Find out how many inches thick that wall is. Find out what they've put in the ceiling, what they've put in the floor. Have they put anything in the ceiling or the floor? Because some of them haven't. Um, Ask those questions because those stickers don't mean anything. It
No.
is just marketing language that they've put up to make it sell.
And
And
there's
the
no
other thing, there's nothing that
no
it's
legal standard.
nope, there is no legal standard, just like there is no legal standard that says, like, what is organic or what is range free whenever you're looking at food, okay? There's
Right.
nothing out there that is regulating that. And so, um, you gotta be smart whenever you're shopping for that. Um, and then what hopefully you'll learn from this episode is how to meet it in the middle. So the things that are maybe lacking that you sacrifice on the rig that you get, learning how to supplement that with easy things that you can do in your rig, like the Reflectix or the battery warmers, or my favorite, just making sure that you have enough propane to get you through the night. Things like that.
Who hasn't
Well,
ran out of propane in the middle of the night before? I
I
mean,
mean, I
if you're
have.
not
They need a trophy if they figured out how to do that.
you're right. I think everybody runs out of propane at least once in their full-time journey. You might solve it after that one time after you've had that experience, but it's going to
Right?
happen.
For sure. So, I mean, one of the things that we should be doing if we were staying in an area where you do have to winterize your rig, where, you're prepping it for the end of season. So, you should drain all your tanks. And so that means
Yes.
fresh tank, black
Yep.
tank, gray tank. Make sure you flush them properly. Um, Make sure you
Open
bypass and
your low point drain. If you don't know where that is, ask somebody who will. You
yep.
want to find that and make sure you open that
Yep, and have, RV safe antifreeze that you're putting through those lines, and then in the
after you
spring
close
that
the low point drain.
eh, but then in
Yes.
the spring, you're
Don't
gonna need to rinse them out thoroughly because you don't want any of
Mhm.
that to be residual, and so
Yes.
that's super important. You need to expose any type of uninsulated pipes, so, like, exposed pipes that might be there somewhere. Pool noodles will do the trick if you don't have a lot on hand or you're
Yep.
working on a pretty low budget. Um,
Yep.
Make sure you take those batteries out. So I wanna make sure we have a decent list for everybody. Um, don't forget to disconnect the batteries and take them out of the rig and put them somewhere safe. If you're winterizing for the winter, you're packing it up, and if you have like warm weather storage for it, like where it's going inside a building, some of this stuff you may not need to do the same way.
Right.
the other thing that a lot of people don't think about is wintertime often becomes breeding ground for mice to get in
Mhm.
when you're not looking. So make sure your pantries are empty.
Yeah.
Empty.
Empty. And
So,
every last hole is plugged.
yep.
And what
'Cause
would you
even
plug that with? You know, I
spray
haven't had to
foam.
do that, but I've heard a few things, and I wanna know what's worked for you guys.
If it's permanent, spray foam. If it's something that you have to remove, then steel wool.
Yep.
Those are the only 2 things really, and it needs to be rodent-proof spray foam because there is spray foam that the mice can eat right through if they wanted to. So,
Well,
Okay.
but
and if you're doing
I wouldn't even just trust that. I would
right.
still set out some mice traps as well.
Yep. Well, and that was the one thing we did find in the rig that we left in Indiana. We did have some rodent droppings in there, so we still don't know if the so far the electrical seems to be okay, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
and they're gone wherever they came from. They're gone because Frank moved the rig to Texas. And
Yep.
so the other thing is if you're if the rig is staying in your yard, a lot of people add some kind of skirting in the wintertime to help
Yeah.
protect the pipes. And so we've seen several
But that
different kinds of
attracts the mice even more.
well, and a lot of people don't do it safely. A lot of people will do, like, straw bales, which I
Yeah.
don't
Mm,
recommend those at all. We
right.
Yep.
actually saw in Hershey, we saw not just skirting, but they had, these items that, like, blew up. They were
They were
called
so
Yeah.
cool.
yep.
Oh, what were they
I have
called?
I'll have to look it up.
I've heard them. Yeah.
I might
But
We'll
have the
it's
tag that
really
in
card
our show
sitting
notes.
next to me.
We'll tag it in our show notes.
yep.
Yes.
So, I mean, like, there's some really neat things out there that you can use that are different. Um, but we'll put a full principal checklist of those things that in the show notes too. But the thing is, what if you're living through winter in an RV? And so I've known
Can I
people that have
ask a
gone skiing
question?
for a whole season. Yeah.
Before we get to living in it, what are your guys' opinions on covering your RV if you are in a situation where you don't have a garage or a unit that you can store it in? I've heard mixed messages, not so much on covering it with an RV sized cover so that it kind of protects it from the sun, um, because the sun is still crazy in the winter, but specifically tires. I've heard so
Mhm.
much back and forth on if wheel tire covers are worth their weight in gold. What do you guys think?
So this one's dual purpose for me. I mean, I'll talk about the roof covers especially because they're hit or miss. So it's hard. Covering your RV with even a mid-grade cover can cause more damage sometimes than is good. Because the covers will rub. And I've actually seen the sides of roofs actually get their TPO roof worn away and have holes in the
Oh,
springtime because of it. Or the sealant gets damaged while in the wintertime underneath the cover. But the other thing is they can actually grow mold. So you need a good breathable cover if you're going to cover your unit. And
Well, not
so
just breathable, but waterproof so it doesn't get moisture underneath. But the
but no,
trouble
the moisture will
is
get stuck under it, so you need it to be
yeah,
breathable to a certain point. And so
but
yeah.
it's
also
still
having
so
a
twisty.
dehumidifier running inside your unit during the winter months, if that's available to you, even if it means you're just putting an extension cord out into your unit with a dehumidifier and checking it
Yeah.
throughout the season. Um, but those are things that are real problems out there. So,
Yeah.
And the other trouble with a cover is now you can't get into your unit if you wanted to check on it, if you wanted to
right.
go
Yeah.
and
But
inspect for mice or something.
But let's talk snow load for a second. So, I just
Yep.
spent the whole day writing up articles on this. So it's very fresh for me. So the problem with it is you got to know what your trusses are made out of. Are they wood trusses? Are they aluminum trusses? Or is it a light trailer? You know, so how do you handle any of that when if your rig is sitting still, you want to make sure you're regularly going off and sweeping off your roof on a regular basis because there
Yep.
really isn't a rig made for the type of snow load we're talking about here. And so if
No.
you just let it melt off throughout the season, That's another problem entirely. Um, so tires are kind of the same thing. Tires, protecting them from sun exposure, UV side of it, you'd be protecting them. But anything is going to shrink in extreme heat and extreme cold. So I would say the cold weather takes a bigger toll on your unit a lot of times
Mhm.
than we actually realize.
Yeah. I think if you can't park your RV inside and you get a lot of snow, it would be beneficial to try and find a like one of those shelters that you can park under,
Like a
so the
carport.
Gotcha.
like a carport type idea. So at least the snow load and stuff is not
Correct.
on your RV, and it's protecting it a little bit better that regard because yeah, the snow and definitely put your slides in. Do not,
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
going to get
Yeah.
a lot of snow, you want those slides in if you're not living in it. If you're living in it, then you just better get your butt up on that roof every day and wipe off the snow multiple
Well,
times a day. I mean, that's what my husband does if we get stuck in a snowstorm. So,
yeah. And I mean that again, you have to be smart about it. So you want to go out in the midpoint of the day where it's the warmest. You want to
yep.
use soft brushes so that you're not doing any harm to your roof while you're up there. You don't
Mhm.
want big heavy boots, but you also don't want to slip. So you need to be mindful of everything that you're doing in that type of environment. There are a lot of people that I know that have lived through winter will go out and build a wooden frame that's kind of a triangle on their
Mhm.
slides so that the snowpack slides off if they're staying in that area. A lot of times, even if that's seasonal, most of my friends that have done that over the years have been nurses that have been in a cold climate for the winter that,
Mhm.
had to take a contract. And then I know people that have skied whole seasons in places. And, sometimes those folks will do something differently, like Mr. Buddy heaters, they'll put them underneath their rig that has a whole nother set of dangers in it.
Yeah.
Um, having live propane underneath your rig or diesel heaters. I know somebody that put a diesel heater in one year to make it last through the season. While they work great, there are some additional risks if you're going to do stuff like that. I also know people that have schoolies that put in wood stoves. Again,
Mm.
same problems. Those are there's challenges with those items.
Yeah.
Moisture control is a big deal in the wintertime. And so let's talk about that a little bit because if you're let's just say we aren't living in our RV, but we get caught in a snowstorm and we can't move for a week and now you're turning the heat on, the inside of your windows are all wet on a regular
Yeah.
basis. Are you wiping your walls down every day?
Yeah, you
How
need
are
a
you controlling
dehumidifier.
moisture?
Yeah, you
Mhm.
need a dehumidifier, and if you can't, go get, a nice unit. Something that helps short term in the process is go and buy those, buckets from Home Depot, Menards, or whatever, those damp rid. Just get several
Yeah.
of those and set them out throughout your RV because it will at least help. And then you don't have to worry about, the big units or whatever. So that's a short term solution.
Well, and it's also a good solution if you're storing it for the winter to have those in there in every room
Yeah.
and then check them occasionally if you can.
We
Every
keep
4 to
one in
6
our
weeks.
basement all the time.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. Well, and if you're getting a dehumidifier, I would recommend that you look at the specs on the dehumidifier for what the ratio is for like how much space it actually covers. We
Yeah.
have two pretty, I don't want to say high dollar, but they're pretty high dollar, but we got them like on sale. So we got them for a really good deal. Um, but I was thinking, okay, these are going to cover like huge amounts of space. I'll only need one. And then whenever I went in and started looking at the square footage that it covered, I was like, oh my gosh, I need two of these suckers in order to do our RV. And I don't even know if it's going to cover the whole thing. So, we still have damp rid things in, like the smaller ones in little cubbies all over the rig. So
Yep.
Yep.
make sure you're paying attention to that square footage and really looking at what does it cover versus what space are you trying to cover.
Yep. Dollar
Well,
Tree sells these cute little ones, and they fit perfectly in the cabinets of your RV and everything else. So
Yep. RV Roofing Solutions is a nationwide RV roofing company with mobile installers.
One of the biggest factors and benefits of the RV Roofing Solutions system is our product is a low VOC, which is helpful for those who are sensitive to chemicals. It's better for the environment, and it actually works better for the RV roofing industry.
It's a great place to find a quality product.
www.rvroofingsolutions.com.
Yeah.
Well, and let's talk snow gear. You know, if you're in, I mean, I travel with 5 people in the rig. That's heavy coats and heavy jackets. You know, I usually have a couple sweaters like this and I layer them. I
Yep.
don't have a lot of snow gear. But you know, if you need, I remember Jen and I were both at the same place at the same time during Snowmageddon one year. And
Yep.
so we were in Texas. And when that happened, nobody was prepared for it because it's Texas. It doesn't snow in
Right.
Texas. And my daughter-in-law has lived in that area for her whole life and never saw snow like that year. So
Wow.
my older kids were at their house when it hit, and we told them the night before, "Hey, just I know you don't have clothes, but they have a washing machine. You know, borrow somebody's sweatpants and wash your clothes because we're not coming to get you once this starts." But the reality is very simple. Even Texas wasn't ready for what happened in Texas that year.
Right.
And
No.
so I saw RVers like letting their kids go out at 8 degrees and we had no power in the RV park. Now we had a generator and we had heat, but it was, you know, we didn't know how long we needed to make the propane last. The high
That
of the
was
day was 8
my
degrees.
kids that went out in that temperature. The first thing they wanted to do was go out. I have pictures of them making angels, snow angels, and building snowmen and having a snowball fight with Angelica, you know?
And see,
But,
I'm the mean mom going, no, you're not going outside in that because I lived in upstate New York growing up. And so I know once it gets that cold at 8 degrees during the day, nighttime highs are very, very cold. And so
yeah.
I was
Right.
like, no, you can't get chilled like that. And so there were kids out there and like they were putting like grocery store bags on their feet to protect themselves from getting wet. Were your kids those kids too?
No. No, they layered up really good. We usually have at least one pair of waterproof boots per person, but that's also because, you know, when we're work camping and stuff, we usually need some good boots like that for different reasons. So the
Well,
boots are
yeah, because
covered
you're in
and then
where?
they
South
layer up.
Dakota? And South
Yeah.
Dakota could snow in the middle of summer.
No, not here. That was Idaho. We spent 3 years in Idaho, and there it snowed every month of the year, just about, you know.
Yep.
But not here. Here we had 100-degree days this summer. So, but yeah, I mean they layered up, and you know we also have. We'll do for the kids. They got those 3-in-1 jackets. So
Yep.
you know they got their light jacket, the inner layer. They can put them together for a thicker jacket. They can do that with their sweatshirts. You know, my husband and I, we've got those feather, you know, poofy jackets that fold up really small, you know, into nothing, but keep you really warm if you want to. So, you know, we try to do things like that on top of, you know, the layers, like Jen was saying too. You know, I have some crazy pictures of me wearing like 12 layers of clothes sometimes just to stay warm. But
Yep.
you do what you gotta do because it's not our primary place to stay. So
But when you do have a big storm coming in, there is some things you should be planning for, like extra propane, emergency food. Don't wait till the storm hits.
yeah.
And snow
Especially when
gear.
you're in a place like Texas, because you don't want to be driving on the road with people that have absolutely no idea how to drive in snow.
Because they
Right.
don't use salt, they use sand.
Yes.
Like, so the grit
Yeah.
isn't really
Yeah.
gritty, even when it's icy. It just, you slide on extra sand. Um, my preferred method is much like Tasha's. It's the Southern escape route. That is usually my plan when it's going to get cold. So, you know, and I mean, we did Yellowstone where we got there on May 8th and it wasn't supposed to be snowy. And,
Oh
you
no.
know, by the next morning, there was a foot and a half of snow on the ground. But on
Yep.
that side of it, you know, my son had to chip through an ice wall. that was 12 feet high. And I said to him, I said, why don't you just take your dad's heat gun? He goes, they're paying me by the hour. I might kill dad's heat gun. So
That's a silver lining. I like it.
but the other side of it is, there's nothing like waking up to a cracked skylight because there was snow up there.
Yeah, that's
And it
horrible.
didn't handle the cold well, or realizing your sewer hose is frozen.
Put them
Have you ever had
away if
that
it's
happen?
gonna freeze. No, I have not, because I've been smart enough to put mine away. But in Texas that year, we took a walk around the campground and we saw lots of busted open and people trying to dump when the power's out. Hello, it's not, the pump's not working at the sewer. And, they're trying to dump and their pipes already, their hose is already frozen full because they did the drip system, which, by the way, don't
Which is
do
not a good
the
plan.
drip system.
Mm-mm.
No, don't
No.
do the drip system. Just, why not?
You're
Let's
not in
tell
an
them why
apartment.
not. What's going to happen if they do the drip system, Jennifer? Because they need to understand why.
Everything's going to freeze.
Yeah.
It's all
It
just going to
just starts building up. It just, it's going to pool somewhere and it's going to freeze and it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and then eventually expand beyond what it can.
So let's talk about the escape method, because I think that that's an important one to discuss. I have never personally on purpose stayed somewhere in my RV, but I know people that have. But if you're planning a southern migration, there are a few tips I'd like to share. So plan early. A lot of RV parks in southern areas fill up fast, and it's not cost effective always to go south. A lot of those parks cost more money, require deposits. Some of them I book a year in advance. Check for long-term stay discounts is another good one. If you're not looking like at Thousand Trails, and even if you're looking at Thousand Trails, you have to plan ahead for that. And I will not share my tips and tricks for Thousand Trails on the podcast. So if you want to know those, you got to be around a campfire with me, because I still want a place to park.
Right.
Make sure your rig is ready before you roll. And so, especially if you're running out of cold areas, you want to make sure that your rig is prepared to leave. And we traveled with a heated water hose for many years because we were in and out of areas that was necessary to have one. And if you have to winterize before you leave, and if you're leaving a second rig or property behind, there's some things that you have to be mindful of. What about you, Tasha? Are there any things that you've done in winter weather that to avoid it, or things that are like you don't want to do that ever again because of something you did?
Things I don't ever want to do again, or things I've done to avoid it. Let's see. Well, I know I keep harping on it, but I don't ever want to run out of propane in the middle of the night. That was disastrous, but that was a really hard one too, because it was our first winter in the rig, and it was
Where
an
were you when it happened?
unexpected hold on, let me call a friend. Matthew, hold please. Where were we when we ran out of propane in the middle of the night? Were we in Arkansas? Yeah, we were in Arkansas and it snowed, and it was frightfully cold. It was so cold, and I woke up and eh, we had the dog in the bed with us, and the dog was shaking like there was an earthquake, and we were shaking, and everybody was just so cold, and um both tanks had run out, and it was horrible, and it was the middle of the night, so there wasn't anywhere to go. There wasn't anything open to go get more propane, so it was, I guess we're getting all of our clothes out from underneath the bed. Like, what are we doing here? And we're turning on the heater, on the fireplace heater, and getting the kids, and we're like, let's all bundle up. And um that's probably my number one, like, I will always, if we ever find out that we will be getting any sort of like a pinch of a view of cold, my first thing will be, how much propane do we have in the tanks? Like, that will not ever happen to us again.
Well, and
Um,
my pro tips is to actually have a couple electric blankets on board. No, we don't use
yep.
them often, but the reality is if you put them under your sheet, they can make the bed so much warmer, and just put them on
Yeah.
low as you're going to bed at night. And
Mhm.
so that really helps if you're in a colder climate. My 23-year-old swore by doing it that way, because it just helped keep him warm. Um, and
Well,
it's you don't need it every night, but it's nice to have on the nights that does get that
yeah.
chilly.
It's also good to have some sort of a backup generator or power source that doesn't require plugging in, because sometimes in those areas, like in Arkansas, when that freeze sets in, it is oftentimes because they don't put their lines underground, the lines freeze, and then you're out of power
Yep.
and you're out of propane. And
Mhm.
so you don't have anything to run your, I mean, you've got what's on your
Your
battery,
backup.
and and so it's
Yep.
like, I hope you have a really good generator because you need heat. Um, so that's another thing that we always have with us is our generator, just in case something happens where we are.
Well, and that's important in campgrounds, especially where there's a widespread power outage, anything
Yes.
like that where you need that.
Yeah.
There's another idea too is, if you're in an area like that, be mindful of your washing machine or ice maker if you have those,
Oh, yeah.
especially if they're on your refrigerator. They're things that maybe you wouldn't think about, that you would either need to winterize or protect yourself or turn them off during those events. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And
And I
so, I
think
mean, what if you
I know that this is like
go ahead.
so off course, but I we've had so many conversations, especially at Hershey, when we were talking about the straw bales underneath for to try and keep things warm and things like that. And then those sad horror stories of people trying to keep it warm then by putting space heaters under and the fire starting and things like that. And I know that it can't stop all of that, but I do just want to mention, Jennifer, the system that you have for helping with fires, because there are a lot of fires that can start during those months when you're running things at full power to try and keep things warm in your RV.
Mhm.
Having a backup system like the Protang, making sure that you've got all of your fire extinguishers checked, that they're all in good health, if that's the word you want to use, that you
Yep.
know where everything's at, so that if anything happens while you're trying to stay warm, you're you're ready to take care
Prepared.
of your family.
Yep.
Right, 100%. And so, I mean, we love our pro tank system, and the price is going to vary based on what your needs are for your RV. And they have to be fully installed because they have to be put in right. And so they're
Right.
not just a DIY system. But we have a pro tank item. They're like little capsules at every place where there's a point where there's a danger point. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to have those. We've removed our propane oven, so we didn't need one there. So our price point for ours was way different than someone that has a lot of things. Or if you have a diesel engine or an engine at all, if you have a class A, they're going to be exponentially more expensive because you want the fire to stop before it ever goes anywhere. And they are
Yep.
known to go out in under 7 seconds. So
Yeah.
chances are there'll be damage. They did save us last year, not in the cold, but our air conditioner caught on, or the air conditioner caught on fire, and it
Oh.
stopped immediately. It stopped it from going any further, and
Hmm.
so
So
um,
is it installed up there in your air conditioner too? Is there one up there?
yeah, there was, yeah. So
Okay.
there's well, it was right at my whatchamacallit, the thing that goes on it, that I'm real
Yeah.
technical right now.
Yep.
Um,
That's
The
okay.
vent.
but no, there's actually like a
Do
soft start up
not
there,
make that
and
the
it was
Soft
the
start.
soft
screensaver. I
start.
just made a face. I know what's
But
gonna happen. That's the face that's gonna get stopped on. Don't make
I
that the
can't
face.
help. I can't help what it chooses.
It's not choosing
um,
anything. I know how this is.
we prefer skipping antifreeze when we get into situations like that. And I don't know about
Yeah.
your family, But there are
Us
some
too.
things that you can do where you can use an air compressor and set it for 40
Mhm.
pounds and blow the lines out. And that's what we did when we were up in Yellowstone. That's what they do for all their cabins. And so the water is then driven out by air. And so you still can have a fairly waterless system.
Yep.
Um, and make sure that your black and gray tanks are dumped in those situations. Um, it's a great time to get a tank cleaning wand and clean out the tanks at the end of the season, and make sure everything's good. Or if you have somebody in your area that cleans tanks locally, you can reach out to them. Um, Double check your kitchen. I'm going to go back to that because no matter what time of year it is, if you've got food up there, crumbs can bring in the most nefarious little critters.
That's just it.
Um,
You're probably gonna have crumbs under your couch or something. So,
yep.
I mean, get all the food out there, but that's why I always say still try to plug the holes and still try to put out some traps anyways, because
Well,
inevitably you're not gonna get everything.
and leave the doors open because critters are less likely to come in and stay if they're
Yep.
visible and seen. And
Yep.
so, and you might want to even unscrew some of the interior light bulbs just for safety. Um, Check your sealant in the fall time. Don't wait until it's too late until it'll cure improperly. You do need, and most companies, you have to have a certain temperature for it to cure properly. And so
Yeah.
those are super important. We kind of did cover RV covered storage. Um, and there's places in Arizona where, you can have covered storage because of the sun. It's also helpful to know when and where those are.
Mhm.
Um, if you do find yourself in a cold location, removing the snow is a super important part of this. And so it's not terribly difficult, but it can be kind of dangerous depending on what's up there. If it's powdery, it's easy compared to if it's sleeting. And so you just want to be mindful of all of that. But what about insulating? We talked about Reflectix. Are there any other insulation tips that you guys would have that, people can maybe try if they're stuck in a cold area for an extended period of time? And honestly, that could be Kentucky for you, Tasha. Like, it could be cold that week.
It might snow when
No,
you're in Kentucky.
stop that. What are you
I mean,
doing?
winter is coming early this year, in case you haven't noticed.
Listen, I saw a caterpillar. I'm gonna give you this footage. I recorded it, and it's one of those orange and black ones that, like, the
Is
old
it
wives'
orange and
tale is
black?
supposed to. They're orange and black, and I can't. They're like woolly worm things. And even in Kentucky,
Oh, the
while we're
woolly
there,
worms.
there's a whole like festival about them because they're
For woolly
supposed to tell
worm,
you like how cold the
how bad
winter's
the
gonna
winter
be.
is gonna be.
There was
Yeah.
way more orangey brown than there was dark black, so this is gonna be a very mild winter. The caterpillar told me so. I'll put the
Oh
footage up
no.
for all of our Patreon, friends so that they can enjoy the, I think that
The
caterpillar's
caterpillar.
more reliable than the groundhog. That's how I feel about it.
Oh,
Um,
boy.
so I think Kentucky, I'll be safe, but, what was the question?
Other
Tips and
insulating
tricks.
options.
Other
Yes, or other
insulation.
tips.
Well, we've got there are skirts that you can put around your RV to try and keep the wind out from underneath. That same company does the inflatable skirt pieces that we had talked about that we'll get the
I
name of
think
and
it's
put both
RV
of
air
those.
skirts.
I
Yeah.
think they are called air skirts. And those were really neat because they were talking about how those are made specifically to help insulate your underbelly in even lower temperatures than what the skirt itself can do. So if you are going to be in Canada, um, you know, that might be a good solution for you. One of the guys that I spoke to told me a really great story that we'll put up, but he talked about how somebody insulated their RV by digging a hole and putting their RV inside of the hole. So, I mean, there are lots of creative ways that you can insulate your RV for winter
Oh,
time.
boy.
Well, in Nebraska, there's actually buildings where you can actually park your rig inside a building to get through the winter. And there's whole
See?
communities like that. It's like an
But
RV park
they need
inside.
things like that when you're further north for sure. But I'm
That's
sure that those
awesome.
places are not expensive either. Another idea is
not.
so my father actually wrote about this in a blog recently, which we can tag in our show notes, but they got
Yes.
stuck in Wisconsin for a few weeks and below zero temperatures, and they wanted to come up with a solution to insulate their RV short term. And so what they did is they went to the hardware store like Home Depot or whatever and got that inch and a half pink insulation, hard foam or whatever, and they
Mhm.
put it up on the ends of their slides, which helped a lot as well. I mean, you're basically just making your walls thicker, but it made a huge difference for them, and
Yeah.
then you just strap them to the slide or whatever. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
not a bad
speaking of
idea either.
slides, I I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but, like, obviously, you don't want your camper to be out of whack and unlevel, but if it is a situation where you can bring slides in during super cold temperatures, that is going to help limit the cold air that's getting
as
in
well,
to your RV. So if you're in a situation where maybe it's an emergency temperature kind of situation, that is a way to lower um that amount of cold air that's getting in and the amount of heat that is releasing from inside the RV.
yeah, for
Well, and
sure.
if you're feeling a draft at those areas, you know, you might want to check your slide seals.
Yep.
Slide
Yes,
seals don't last forever. So there's a lot of reasons that that can happen. So again, temperature is going to be a factor. If you have to replace your slide seals and it's sub-zero weather, guess
no,
what?
you
You're
can't.
probably not going to do it because
No,
the
Yeah.
glue's not going to hold. But at the same time, you need to know if you can do that earlier in the season, that should be kind of in that fall maintenance checklist. And
well,
so
Mhm.
checking those slide seals. Also, if your slides are not fully extended, they are not sealed. So they either have to
Yes.
be fully shut or fully extended, because I've known a lot of people over the years that have called us up for RV roofing solutions and said, "Hey, my slide leaked. I stayed at Cracker Barrel last night and I put it out 3 inches." And I'm like, well, right, it leaked because it wasn't sealed. And so, but people don't know what they don't know. And so we're
Right.
here to just help you find these answers out. And so a lot of people might think that, they're fully sealed anytime. They're not. They have to be fully extended or fully shut in order for them to
yeah,
properly be sealed. So, I mean, there's lots of tips and tricks. I'm going to go south for the winter, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to catch some cold weather before then. And
right,
so it's important to know how to manage it. And even Florida or Arizona or Southern California can go down in the 20s in the winter. So some of the
Yep.
tips and
yep,
tricks that we've shared today
absolutely,
are things that you might need, even
yep,
if you're staying in a warmer climate in the winter. So whether you're bundling up or you're just out there chasing the sun, winter RV can be a season of intention. And so, maybe you're an avid skier and you want to go ski the slopes in Aspen for a whole season. There are places you can do that. Does it take some extra work? 100%. But it's about preparing and adapting and finding those quiet moments to do that. Hot cocoa by the heater, I prefer that at the poolside in Florida. But, you know, frosty morning walks might be your jam. Or holiday lights strung across your awning with the snow to go with it. I'm going to go to Celebration and experience the snow that feels a lot like soap.
yeah, yes,
But
the
but if
Florida
you've got
snow.
yeah, a Florida snow.
Yes.
But if you've got winter tips or favorite destinations or stories from the road, we'd love to hear them. So drop them in the comments at the Learn to RV podcast site. Make sure you tell us all about them. We would love to be able to feature those stories, even if they're a little less than thrilling for you. The best stories come from the craziest adventures. So we're here for all of it. Thanks for joining us today from the Learn to RV team. Stay safe, travel warm, but remember, Jack Frost doesn't stand a chance when you're in an RV if you know what you're doing.
Thanks for riding along with us today. Until next time, keep the wheels turning.